Many people from complex trauma find themselves in relationships that initially they think are healthy, but then after a little while they go, I don't know if it's healthy or not. How can I tell if it's unhealthy? How can I tell if it's healthy? What are the characteristics of an unhealthy relationship? Or just to really make it come into focus, what are the characteristics of a very unhealthy relationship? Or let's take that even further. What are the characteristics of a relationship that is starting to really break down? What are the characteristics of a relationship that is broken down to the point where it's almost beyond salvaging? There's a good chance it's not going to survive. Dr. John Gottman, he's written a number of books, spent the last 40 years researching relationships, looking for scientific stuff that will help understand healthy relationships. So the book he's written that I'm going to draw from is The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. So here's the big picture that I want you to get of what are the signs of a relationship that it's breaking down, that it's getting to the point of being very unhealthy, even to the point of being beyond saving. And it really revolves around an internal attitude, an internal dynamic that is taking place that's resulting in external things happening. But I want you to understand that internal dynamic. And it's really when a relationship is in big trouble, one or both partners are closing their heart to the other partner. That really is the key of what we're looking for. So let's expand on that. What does it mean to close your heart to the other person? So there's a bunch of different aspects to that. So the first would be you've developed a resentment to that person. That person has hurt you. You're not willing to let it go. You're going to want to hurt them back. And so part of what you do with a resentment is you close your heart to the other person. I'm not willing to try and resolve it. I'm not wanting to feel loving feelings towards you. I'm not wanting to give you another chance. I want to hurt you. I want to cut you out. That's going to be one of the ways that I hurt you. And so what happens with people who've closed their heart is that they might have all the tools necessary to resolve the relationship, but they just don't want to use them because they want to hurt that person back. They want to keep that person out. So that's really when a relationship is in trouble. And so if a person is willing to reopen their heart, and both people are, and willing to change and grow, then a relationship is salvageable. But when a person is unwilling to open their heart is closed shut, then a relationship is not salvageable. Because it doesn't matter what you do as far as tools, your heart is closed to the other person. You're not letting them in. So that's really the core. So why do people close their hearts? Most come out of the complex trauma. So if you look at 2 people from complex trauma that get in a relationship, what you have is 3 sets of baggage. One person comes with their own baggage from their past, which is all of their wounds, their triggers, things that haven't been healed, their patterns of responding. Then you have the other person with their baggage. They live together, they hurt each other, create the 3rd set of baggage, the relationship baggage. And so what happens when you try to have an intimate relationship is you find out we're bumping into somebody's baggage every day. Their baggage, my baggage, or our past relationship baggage. And so every day somebody's getting triggered, something's getting triggered. It's resulting in a bit of a meltdown, a bit of conflict. And so we're spending all of our time working on the problems, working on the triggers, the baggage. And it just seems like it's constantly working on, oh, you got hurt today, oh, I got hurt today, oh, I'm mad at you today, or I'm frustrated. Work on problems, pain, hurt. It's exhausting. The fun, the joy is gone from the relationship. It's just constantly dealing with negative emotions, tension, conflict, handling another person's hurts and wounds, handling your own. And so after a while, a person can go, I need some fun in my relationship. I need a balance between work and joy. This is just all work, I'm done. And they close their heart. The second is, if you're in a relationship with somebody who's not willing to change, they're narcissistic, they're gaslighting you, they're going to keep hurting you, but there's no way of resolving it because they're not willing to change. You've tried to change. You've tried to do what they say is the problem that needs to be fixed. But that doesn't seem to be helping it because they just keep hurting you and they're not willing to change. So if you have somebody that is not willing to change, ultimately your only way of surviving, if you're not willing to leave the relationship, your only way to survive in that relationship is to close your heart, to protect yourself. That becomes a survival necessity. And so that's what some people do. Third, a lot of people coming out of complex trauma, soon as they are triggered, soon as there's conflict, they don't have tools to resolve the conflict. And so what is going to happen is the conflict is going to lead to people getting hurt again. And so the only tool they have to protect themselves from getting hurt is to close their heart. And so because they don't have healthy tools, they go back to the only tool they have, close their heart. And so if hurts keep happening, they keep going back to close their heart, and finally it's just, let's just keep it closed. Closing your heart for so many people from complex trauma became their main survival tool in a situation, a home life where they could not resolve the hurts, the pain, the conflict, the anger. And so they just kept getting hurt. Nobody was willing to change. Nobody was willing to help resolve it. And so your only survival tool became closing your heart. Nobody gave you any other tools to resolve stuff. And so now, today, if you get hurt, what's your default setting? Close your heart. That's where your brain immediately goes. The minute some of your stuff gets triggered today, close your heart. And so that's a default setting for people. That's where they go the easiest, that feels normal, and that's their main tool still. And then for many who come out of complex trauma, they weren't allowed to set healthy boundaries with people. They weren't allowed to say, no, you can't come into my space. And so what they find now today is the only way they know how to enforce a boundary with somebody is to close their heart to that person. I must get to the point where I don't care about you, where I even hate you. That's the only way I can enforce a boundary with you. That's their main boundary tool, which is sad, but that's all they have. The next one is, if you are in a relationship with somebody, you're giving to try to meet their needs, you're willing to sacrifice to meet their needs, but they seem totally oblivious to your needs. They don't seem to care about meeting your needs. They're just kind of wrapped up in their world. And so you're in a relationship where you're going for months without some of your basic needs being met. After a while, that just hurts all the time. You've asked for the other person to meet your needs. You've begged them to meet your needs. You've got angry at them for not meeting your needs, but they're still not meeting your needs. And so eventually, you just close your heart. So when you are in a relationship where needs are not being met, usually the net result over time is you have to close your heart. The next one, and this is really, really big. If you want to look for a common reason, what is behind closing your heart, it's usually, I no longer respect you, I no longer trust you. So as soon as respect or trust disappear in a relationship, the relationship is no longer safe. So I must close my heart. So look for that lack of or loss of respect and loss of trust. Now I need to add this one. I think for many people from complex trauma, their way of surviving as a child was they had to close their heart and not allow themselves to connect to anybody. Because in their mind, connection meant getting hurt. So don't connect, and the best way to not connect is close your heart. But then what happened is they were lonely, they longed to be loved, and so what they tried to do was create relationships where they would feel love, where they would feel companionship, but not truly connect, not have to open their heart. And so I think a lot of people from complex trauma, without even realizing it, are in relationships, but they have never totally opened their heart to the other person within that relationship. Not from day one. They've looked for good, warm feelings to try and create a bond, but they've never truly opened their heart. And so that's an important thing to realize, because if you've never truly opened your heart to somebody in a relationship, that relationship is doomed to fail from the get-go. And that, sadly, is the case for so many people from complex trauma. So what are the signs that the relationship is starting to break down? And this is where I'm going to draw from John Gottman's book. So he says the first sign that he would look for, and I would agree, is what we call harsh startup. So whenever you're annoyed with your partner, there's a disagreement, there's conflict, your first response, the startup of the conversation is not gentle, it's not warm, it's not soft, it's not, I'm feeling hurt when you did this bothered me. It is harsh. It comes out as immediately accusatory. You did this, how could you? Or defensive, or highly critical, or goes right to disrespect, right to tons of anger, or great sarcasm. So it starts the first words come out very harsh, very angry, very negative, very critical. So I hope what you can see is if you start a conversation like that, you set up an immediate roadblock to effective communication. You set up a roadblock to anybody wanting to open up to the other person and try to resolve it, because you're coming out with guns blazing. And so what they have found in the research is if communication begins with harsh startup, it usually ends on a negative note. It doesn't get resolved. So 96% of the time you can predict the outcome of a conversation based on the first 3 minutes. So if your conversations that come out of annoyance, frustration, conflict, start with harsh startup, not a good sign. That's an indicator that something is broken underneath, that your heart is starting to close. So again, the bottom line, how you initially approach conflict is critical, and if it's a harsh startup, it's going to hinder your ability to resolve the issue. So that's the first thing, is the harsh startup. Second is what Gottman calls the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So that's a commonly used metaphor, but it really refers to 4 types of negative interaction, communication, that are particularly lethal. And these 4 usually appear in order, but again, remember, they're external indicators that something deep inside is not good, that the person has closed or is closing their heart to the other person. So the first of the horsemen is criticism. And so it's important to understand the difference between complaint versus criticism. So complaint, it focuses on a specific behavior or event. So when I got home today, and after I had asked you to put the dishes away and they were still piled all over the counter, I was really frustrated. Specific event, a complaint, you identify it. A criticism, though, isn't about a specific event. It's about the person globally. Something about their personality, something that you just don't like about them. And so you just say, you're such a loser. You can't do anything right. That global, that's criticism. So when a relationship gets beyond complaints to this global criticism, then it's in trouble. So let me go back just to make sure you get this clear. A complaint usually has 3 parts. So number 1, you'd say, because of this event, here's how I feel about this specific situation. And thirdly, here's what I need, or here's what I want or would prefer to happen. So it has a solution. It identifies a specific issue. That's a complaint. That's healthy. Every relationship has that. That's part of living with another person. A criticism, though, you never do this. You always do this. That global. And so you can't win because the person is just painting you with this brush that's bad. That's negative. So let me take it further. Complaint, that has a goal, which is to resolve the situation. The goal is positive resolution, to change, to improve. Criticism, the goal is I just want to punish you. I want to hurt you. I want to put you down. I want to make you feel bad. So again, when you get to criticism as the normal part of your relationship, when you're frustrated, your relationship's in trouble. Now, a lot of when you're heading towards getting into trouble, what can happen when you're frustrated is it can start as a complaint, but if it's not quickly resolved, it can go to criticism. That's a warning sign that, okay, we're starting to get into dangerous territory here, because a healthy, soft start complaint is now quickly degenerating to just this criticism that wants to hurt the other person. So then the second horseman is contempt. And so contempt is that disrespect. It takes disrespect to a severe level, to a form of disgust. I can't stand you. I'm disgusted with you. And it's designed to hurt, to demean your partner. So it can come out in kind of a sneer, sarcasm, mocking them, eye-rolling. It's the ultimate in put down. It's not just doing certain actions. It's conveying an attitude to them that I'm superior to you, you're inferior, and I want you to know it. Now, what happens for many people when they use contempt is they justify it in their own mind that they are morally superior to the other person. Not just superior in their attitude, but they feel morally better than them. That's how they justify it. It's not true, but that's what happens. So what I hope you realize is when you develop that contempt, you pretty much got to have your heart closed to your partner. And no conflict's going to get resolved because you're not interested in that now. You're just interested in putting them down and hurting them. And so instead of resolving conflict, it actually leads to more hurt and more conflict. Now you're in big trouble. Then the third is defensiveness. So if you raise an issue, a complaint, when I got home and I saw the dishes on the counter, and the response of the other person is immediate defensiveness. It's not me, it's you. They blame you. They turn it on you. They get upset. They try to deflect all attention off of them. When it gets super emotional very quickly and they're not willing to look at their part, look at the facts, own anything, then you're in big trouble. So defensiveness is another sign that things are breaking down, you're closing your heart, you're not willing to look at your own stuff. And then the fourth and the final, and this can happen, this takes months to get to this point. This is slowly evolving, but it's stonewalling. And stonewalling is your partner wants to talk, your partner wants to resolve the situation, and you refuse to talk. You just tune them out, you totally disengage from them. You act like you couldn't care less about what they're saying, like you're not even listening. Then all hope of resolving is just about gone. So what I hope you realize is you can see a progression happening here. You can see a breakdown. And when it gets to the point of stonewalling the other person, that relationship is in big trouble. The third one is what we call, in psychology, we call it flooding. And that just means being flooded with intense emotions. So that when you have conflict, frustration, you get triggered, you get hurt, you're just immediately flooded with intense emotions, intense emotional distress. Or it could be that your partner, you see, is getting flooded with emotions, and you don't know what to do with that. It creates distress in you to see them flooded. So they get flooded, that results in you getting flooded. And so what happens when you're flooded with emotions, intense, severe emotions, is it releases cortisol. And so then what begins to happen is you lose your ability to reason, to have a meaningful conversation. That's gone out the window. You get angry really quickly. And so you go into fight or flight. That's your main way of coping at that point. And it is so intense that if you go into flight mode, like you're out of there, there's no talking to you. If you go into fight mode, it's like the locomotive is going to leave the station and you go into this blind rage where you just lash out and you just can't stop it. So once you're overwhelmed with emotions, your chance of having a conversation to resolve it are basically gone. Because cortisol takes over, fight, flight takes over, you're in survival mode, self-protection mode, and it all begins to break down. What happens for many people when that cortisol is released and they're flooded with all these emotions is they go into that feeling of moral superiority. I'm right, they're wrong. I don't have to take this crap anymore. Why are they always picking on me? So they play the victim, or they play superior, or they play, I'm done with this. It just gets you to very black and white thinking. It gets you to the very distorted thinking. And then the problem is once everybody calms down, nobody wants to bring up the issue again because they're afraid you're just going to get flooded again. And so the issue remains unresolved. And so what a lot of people tend to think is, okay, we're calmed down, crisis has passed, let's not talk about it. Let's just say it's resolved because we're both feeling good again. Maybe let's just make up sex and then everything's good. But nothing has been resolved. And so that becomes a problem because now you're just piling up baggage. And that baggage is going to get triggered again. And the more it gets triggered and the more baggage you get, the more you're going to close your heart. And the more you close your heart and more unresolved baggage you have, the more, as soon as a trigger happens, you get flooded. And it just keeps making worse. It snowballs, but it sets up these cycles, and it just starts to break down more and more. And then what happens is you now are on guard with each other. You're now like, oh, I don't want to step on a landmine here. I don't want to step on this nerve here because they're going to blow and they're going to get flooded and then I'll get flooded. And so now it's just, you're hypervigilant. This relationship is no longer safe. You've created complex trauma within your own relationship. Okay, number 4th sign that it's breaking down. And this is starting to get to the more severe end of breaking down to a point where you're in big trouble. And that's emotional distancing. So you live in the same house, but basically you live separate lives. You just don't truly connect emotionally. You connect about what needs to be done today, who needs to pick up kids, but you're not connecting emotionally. And you actually find a resistance to want to be present to your partner emotionally. So you aren't present to each other. When you're with your partner, it's, I don't want to go to the emotional. I don't want to go to that vulnerable place. I just want this to stay superficial. I just want to get out of here as quickly as I can. I just want to do an activity, but I don't want to talk. Resistance to truly be present to your partner. So you could be great at making a show in public, but in private, there's an emotional distance that's growing. And so what begins to happen is that you're starting to feel more and more lonely and alone within your intimate relationship. Number 5 is failed attempts at repairing the relationship. So there's 2 types of repair attempts. So the first is if you're in a conflict and you're realizing, okay, we're both escalating, this is going to prevent us from resolving it. So the repair attempt is, let's find a way to calm down. Let's find a way to get back to a place where we can be reasonable, rational, and actually resolve this. The second type of repair attempt is, we need outside help. Let's go to a counselor, a therapist, and get some help because we're not able to repair this ourselves. We need somebody to help us repair it. So, for most people in relationships that come out of complex trauma, by the time they get to repair attempt type 2, let's go to a counselor, often it's too late. Because often both have closed their hearts by then, and they're not willing to open them. So that often just doesn't work, but sometimes it does. So the part that is the earlier warning sign is when repair attempts during conflict stop working. So in the past, if you feel yourself escalating, you say, you know what, I just need a time out and then I need to cool down and then I'll come back. That no longer works. The other person says, nope, we're going to keep right on going, and just override you, keeps yelling at you, or you just don't even want to calm down anymore. You just want to lash out and hurt them. So when repair attempts no longer work, then you are in big trouble. That leads to the next one. So now we're really starting, it's getting in really bad place. Only recall bad memories when talking or thinking about the other person. So this shows that your attitude towards your partner is now becoming mainly negative. And so now when you go back through memories, you're only looking for memories that support your negative attitude. So you're only looking for negative memories. Or some people even go to rewrite some of the good memories to somehow try to make them negative. So they're looking for, let's rewrite history, or let's just go back through history to find stuff to support my negative attitude. So now they're actually beginning to look for a way out. They're looking to, they want nothing good to think about this person. They don't want anything to counteract their closed heart, their negative thinking. It is getting to a dire place. And so the final stages then, and again, this can take years to develop. And you're going to go through all of this gradual stuff that keeps closing the heart more and more and does more and more hurt. So the couple begins to realize we've reached a crisis point. We are in trouble. Our problems are severe. Talking about it is useless. Nothing is helping. We've tried to get help. That doesn't seem to be helping. We're living parallel lives, emotionally distant. Then they're both lonely because there's no connection happening. And so what can happen for some is an affair. But here's what I want you to see. Many people say the affair is what caused the breakup. You realize the affair is the symptom of months and years of the relationship breaking down, of closing the heart, of creating a loneliness in both of you within the relationship, the lack of connection within the relationship. The affair is the symptom of all that's been breaking down for months and years. That is so important to understand. Yes, the affair is a serious issue, but the issue's bigger, deeper. It's been going on for years. That's what has to be looked at. So let me summarize all of this. A breakdown can be seen in how you think about each other. So it begins to change to more and more negative thoughts about the other person. It can be seen in how you talk to each other. So you have a harsh startup. You have the 4 horsemen. Those are your words to each other. You see that it's breaking down. It can be seen in your physical reaction to each other, the flooding, the cortisol release as soon as there's trouble. So it can be seen in your thoughts, in your words, in your bodily reactions. It's important to understand this. I think there's a lot of couples today that are living together in a relationship together. They've already closed their hearts. But they're still trying to make it work with closed hearts. Impossible. Oh, you can stay together. You can kind of have some kind of a relationship, but it's never going to be satisfying. It's never going to be healthy. It's never going to truly meet your deepest needs. But that's what a lot of people do. And so they go to counselors looking for tools to make a great relationship where they don't have to open their heart. So here's what I don't want you to hear me say. I don't want you to hear me say, the solution is just open your heart. No. You have to open your heart, but only if the other person is safe and they're opening their heart too. If both people are working to own their stuff, change, get healthy, become safe, then you can open your heart. But if one is not willing to change, one is not willing to open their heart, they just want to keep punishing you and hurting you, the solution is not trying to find some tool to magically make it work, not trying to magically get them to open their heart. It's not opening your heart because you're only going to get hurt again. It's setting a boundary and maybe leaving. And that is often the advice many do not want to hear. Because their codependency issues say, I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be abandoned. I need this relationship, even though it's sick, even though it keeps hurting me. But those are the options. So I hope this gives you some insight into looking at your own relationship. And for some of you being able to go, I think I have a problem here. I think I need to look honestly at the fact that my relationship is in big trouble. And I need to look honestly at whether it can be salvaged and whether both of us are willing to do what is necessary to salvage it and create a healthy relationship.